Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today I have the honor of speaking with none other than Min Kim. He is the founder of Icon, and he's here today to give us key updates on what's been happening of late in the Icon Foundation. So Min, thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome. Happy to
So,
be here.
thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy and you have several meetings today. Now, Min, obviously the big buzzword right now is change, the way in which blockchain itself is evolving in 2018. When we spoke last, it was quite an exciting time because it was the very nascent and beginning stages of Icon. What's been happening right now? What's the big thing that you could tell us in terms of the change that we can now see since we last spoke?
Sure. So I think a lot of our efforts on the development front is now coming into actual realization. So you might have seen some of the announcements that we made, a big announcement that we made a few weeks ago about in the next 2 months, by end of September, we'll be launching a bunch of things on our GitHub. We just launched our officially launched our developers tool.
Right.
And as you can see now, you're starting to see some like really real cool activities. We're now engaging ourselves with a lot of the people who were initially very interested in developing on top of Icon, and now they get to really experience, play with the codes and see what they could actually build on top of Icon. So a lot of exciting things, like we had a team in San Francisco come over to our office and showed us what they've been working on, especially they were working in particular in the NFT, non-fungible token side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So which was really cool. So a lot of development activities happening, and it's only been a couple of weeks, so we expect things to be even more ramping up in the near future.
Right. And Min, on that note, can you talk us through a bit more about the non-fungible tokens you're mentioning? Obviously, security tokens are also becoming a focus. Certainly there's a lot of discussion of them. Can you talk us through some of the changes that Icon are considering at the moment with regard to even the token projects?
Yeah, so we're very, very early stages for something like non-fungible tokens and
Mm-hmm.
security tokens. We're sort of setting the standards for, on the developer side, providing documentation and specifications on how to build non-fungible tokens. So very, very early still at this stage. So, which is really cool when guys like the guys from yesterday, they come in and they get to talk to us and tell us about their experience and give us their feedback. I think those were very, very important. On the security token side, we are talking to some of the best people in the space. I myself personally am starting to put all the efforts into kind of testing out security tokens. So you might have seen some recent updates, like Open Finance have started being able to trade security tokens. There is a company called SharePost here in San Francisco. They have a very, very interesting thing happening that I probably can't. I'm not sure how much I can talk about it, but they're doing very, very interesting things. And SharePost is it's a reputable company that's been trading secondary shares for a lot of the tech companies and just about any companies in the private institutions. So
Right.
it's
Now,
very,
and that's
yeah.
exciting, Min. Now, you've mentioned you're in San Fran now, and I want to talk to you about that, given that San Fran is a hub in the US for technological development. And clearly you're moving beyond the borders of Korea itself with regard to the foundation and with regard to what Icon is trying to build.
Yeah, so like everything is happening in parallel. So the technology side, I am not personally in charge of everything, but we have teams in Korea and we have other partners in Korea that is really pushing the development side. Simultaneously, what I'm working on is trying to build an ecosystem by launching what you call accelerators around the world. So the idea is we want to have a demo day where companies could move across different continents, different cities, and being able to get their projects in front of communities and investors or contributors. however you want to call it,
Hmm.
in various regions, pretty much every day or pretty much every week. So we want to have a demo day somewhere around the world every month. So in combination, like you'll be able to pitch your ideas somewhere in the world once a week.
I see. Now, will there be clear updates about those different regions, or have you got a list that you've disclosed so people can follow along?
Yes, so I mean, obviously South Korea has already started. We've already been doing about one demo days per month.
Mhm.
In San Francisco, we have our first launch event. So we'll have some extremely reputable venture capitalists and traditional investors that are coming in to learn about the space, but also talk to us and learn how Icon's ecosystem is growing. In that sense, like Icon as a foundation, we've are partnered with a company that we, initially sponsored. Is called ICX Station,
Mhm.
and we actually got some very very good people. One guy named Takey Lee and another guy named Scott Smiley. You might have seen their article on The Iconist, which is a news site that was launched recently. So these guys have been doing a phenomenal job of attracting some of the best entrepreneurs and projects to build on top of the Icon protocol. We have people that will be flying in from Korea, Japan, and Singapore next week to
Mhm.
be able to connect with the community here. So that's what we do. We make it easy for DApp companies to build on top of Icon, but also build a community because we have a lot of these what we call launch pads all across the world. So right now we have one in Korea, one in San Francisco, um, Tokyo. We've already established a office there, so we will be launching one soon in Tokyo.
Mhm.
And in Singapore, we found a partner that we want to work with. So Singapore will be coming hopefully end of this year or maybe early next year.
I see. Now, obviously, there's a lot of developments happening and it's planned globally. But I mean, I want to talk to you now about the dApps themselves. You've referenced that there's some development there. Can you talk
Mhm.
us through the progress since we last spoke? Icon was regarded as the innovative platform for Korea at the time. What is the update with regard to dApps, and how many things are being onboarded onto your system?
So dApps are extremely excited right now. They are now starting to play with the codes. Now we could do exclusive ICX uh, token sales, which we weren't able to do before. So these are very, very exciting times right now. And a lot of the development teams from the dApps are now playing with the codes and starting to build. So we're expected to see some like exciting things maybe.
Sure. And Min, can you talk us through some of the numbers? Obviously, as one of the co-founders, you'd know the kind of interest that has arisen even in Korea alone. What kind of numbers can people become aware of with regard to the business interest?
So the business interests, as you know, that we are kind of split in half, where we are very focused on the enterprise side of things, and the public side of things we are just launching. I mean, the dApps that we want to work with is a handful. So we have about a dozen companies that we engage with on a day-to-day basis. The way we take this is very different from a lot of other projects that are out there. Uh, we're not interested in, at current moment, putting hundreds of dApps on our platform. Korea alone, we've had applications of about 60, 70, last time I checked, projects that wanted to talk to us to build on top of the Icon protocol, but we've only selected a very tiny minority because um, how we like to progress is that we like to work very closely with the partners and get feedbacks and iterate on our product and service so that we can continually improve. Um, it's not about we just launch something and expect people to use it and we make slow changes. We want to make changes extremely rapidly,
Mhm.
extremely quickly, and the only way we feel we are comfortable doing is work with a select individuals that we've been working with to be able to change things on a real-time basis.
I see. Now, obviously, you mentioned you're quite selective. Now, I remember watching an interview with you with Chico Crypto while you were in the US some time ago, and you mentioned that you weren't so focused on media at the time. Now, I want to ask you directly about that comment, because obviously you'd appreciate that the community themselves, particularly in the small space of crypto, is vital to any project. So what's your your position now with regard to the importance of engagement with the community and with media itself?
So, I mean, engaging with the community is very different from engaging with the media. I
Mhm.
mean, if you talk about just straight up marketing, where marketing of ICX or our tokens to a broader community where there's no real use case, I think it's very questionable of what you're marketing. So, still, our stance hasn't changed about marketing. We just don't have, we don't feel that we need to do marketing on the tokens itself. um, we are starting to do, because marketing, it needs to have a purpose. It needs to have exactly what you got to know what to expect, what your returns are going to be, what the purpose of the marketing is going to result in. So in that sense, we are now starting to do a very, very heavy marketing push, especially on the development side, in Korea, where you're starting to see more sponsorships around hackathons. We're more involved with the conferences, and in these conferences, we are talking to developers on how to build on top of Icon. Now we have some marketing push planned in the month of September that is very developer focused. So like it needs to go have a purpose, and the purpose right now is to you know build and grow our developer community through marketing. That's what marketing should be. Marketing shouldn't be just going out there and telling people that to buy your tokens, because that just doesn't serve any purpose for us. That's
I
just
see.
my opinion.
I thank you for that explanation. Obviously, the people who have invested in your utility as you evolve really do want to become informed consistently about what you are doing. And you're saying that you're focused on specifically the doing, what you're doing to build out your ecosystem. Is that fair to say?
Yep, that's very fair to say. And I mean, we're very engaged with our community. I mean, we love engaging with our community and listening to what they have to say, and providing them with more depth and insight. I think there's been a bit of misunderstanding when it came to like how we manage our community, because from the very beginning, our purpose and our goal of the community was to build a community-driven community. It's really strange how we're not a company, we're a network. We are building something that's greater than one company itself. We need volunteers. We need people to come in to become community leaders. And we are starting to see a lot of that. And a lot of that we've actually planted the seed from months ago to be able to accomplish that. So I think it's really awesome how you see members starting to step up and contribute in ways that you don't see in other projects. For example, there's a group called HX57 started by Justin, or his online name, to Infinity, and he gathered dozens of people to translate all the some of the key icon documentation into many different languages. And it's through just pure interest and passion for what icon stands for. And this is what you want from your community. You want grassroots movements to be developing all across. So, I mean, these guys are coming together and putting their own meetups, doing their own panels, doing their own, putting up their own websites to help contribute to the icon community. And that's what you want to see. And I think that's something that we are extremely proud of, and we want to foster more of that type of community engagement and community activities.
Sure.
Mhm.
And I mean, in that regard, I want to take you back a little bit to Ethereum, to Neo, and obviously to yourselves with regard to different regions and what evolved in 2017. We saw platforms that were associated with countries, and yours obviously started with Korea. And in that respect, there was a real strong understanding at that time that you were not only just a public blockchain, but you were also going to service enterprise. In that sort of breath, I also want to talk to you about price. And I know that it's an uncomfortable sort of discussion for many people, particularly in your seat as one of the leaders of the ecosystem. But the reality is we saw a huge dump that happened, with regard to Icon, since we last spoke. I want to talk to you about how that's impacted the team, how that's impacted the morale, and what you've done to really build up the name of Icon once again.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in grand scheme of things, I think we are still in a very, very strong position. I think we have a lot of moral support from the initial round of funds and contributors that help get the ground go, get our project up and running. So I don't think there's been too many negative side of things. I mean, it's part of the game, part of the market, part of you know the industry where you see a lot of volatility. So we've been there before. You've seen 80-90% drops in prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum before. So I mean, it's not out of the ordinary from the management perspective at Icon. I mean, we're not, we're long-term believers in the market, so it doesn't really deter us. It does hurt because there are a lot of things that we could be doing better in a good market, because you, like, from a capital rationing standpoint, you need to put brakes on some certain projects. You need to think about, okay, since we're in a down market, we should hold off on some of the more aggressive type of plans. So, we make certain changes that affect the organization or the project, but it's all part of any type of industry.
Sure. I appreciate that, Min, but obviously the kind of the depth or the scope of the way in which that you arose in the space was significant. I mean, some would argue that you did 100x. We've heard that term, and for that to happen, obviously there's been a pullback. It's been very significant. So, can we talk a little bit about why this occurred? Why was there such a significant price gain and then price drop as opposed to some other projects?
I mean, I think this has a lot to do with the timing. I think we've done a great job getting our project out very early last year. We had a lot of momentum. I mean, our Icon is one of the most popular projects in the world. So, in terms of the value and in terms of the demand that we were seeing, I mean, we're not surprised by how quickly the price might have went up. So, I mean, there's a lot of mechanisms, that even factors that I don't even know what goes into it. But it is what it is. We had some very good run. I mean, and perhaps what goes up, kind of comes down to.
Sure. I mean, in that respect, obviously you engage with different media sources or you different cryptocurrency influencers or advisors to that effect. Would you have changed anything knowing what you know now about the way in which the system of crypto works?
No, I mean, I think if you look back, of course, there's always things that you could improve on, but in the grand scheme of things, I think we've done a phenomenal job. I mean, if you look at the history of blockchain projects, I would say we've done a better job than most projects that were out there. And we're still doing a better job in terms of executing and getting things shipped and building a community and expanding outside of our comfort zone, our home territory. So, I think we've made very, very strong strategic plan from the very beginning. We built a very good team, and we're still executing the way we planned it. So, there are some always good changes, and some of the things that we did not expect, such as the line partnership, the joint venture, things like that, just makes us very proud of what we built, because we've started getting a lot of good recognition from not people within the blockchain industry, but from the technology industry.
I see. Now let's talk about that a bit more. Now, I referenced NEO before, and currently, particularly right now, they are focused heavily on enterprise. Can you talk us through specifically that part of the ecosystem and what's building out? Well, who are you talking to? What kind of enterprise sectors globally are you interacting with, and what's the nature of it?
So I think what you see right now is the way we think about it is a long-term play. So we started off as an enterprise blockchain, and Icon is a public blockchain, but overall we see the both industry moving along and colliding and being able to interoperate. So, our end goal has always been, will always be interoperability. But right now we are doing several projects, chain projects in parallel, because it's part of our strategy is to basically give out our technology to as many companies, as many people, get our codes in the hands of as many developers as possible. So I think there's a lot of good questions that are coming out from the community and from the people, like, how is an enterprise deal going to be related to ICX, or how is interoperability going to work in the this year? Like, how's
Right.
interchange going to be working next year? I think, I've been reminding everyone that I've talked to that we are playing it's a long-term game. So what we do is every day we try to increase our probability, our chances of succeeding by changing strategies and basically adapting to the environment that you see today. So good thing is a lot of these enterprises are very excited about what we've shown them, what we built so far, and they're willing to work with us to test out, create use cases, and adopt our technology basically.
I see. And then
And
in that respect, you mentioned enterprises are willing to. Can you give us some names? Can you talk about partners specifically who are willing to engage in this business domain?
I mean, the two biggest names right now, one is Line. So we've set up a joint venture with Line, and the company's called Unchained. Basically, Line has dedicated some of their resources into this joint venture, and we also sent some of our best developers into this joint venture. So we are creating a very interesting project there. Some of the things I cannot reveal the details at the moment because obviously um, there needs to be there's more formalities when there's working with enterprises, but hopefully you'll see some good traction and some good news in the near future. The other part is our Chain ID product is now starting to see more and more aggressive adoption. So Chain ID, as you know, was started with a consortium that we're leading with 25 securities firms, and that Chain ID product has been now being it got decided to be implemented with Samsung Pass, which is a product within the Samsung Mobile. And also Chain ID is now being implemented with SMBs in Korea. So we are working very closely with a lot of the various government organizations to best our chances of increasing adoption across various industries. So these are very, very early positive signs of how our technology could be implemented into different industry, and we will continue to work hard to create different use cases. But what you have to see is that if you look at across every single blockchain projects out there, I think we're still extremely unique in a way that we're working with some of the most reputable institutions out there. And you don't see too many blockchain projects working very closely with various government programs as well. So
Sure. I mean, just on that note, I do want to talk about the government connections that you have and also those prominent non-crypto related businesses that you've connected with in Korea. There's even mention of universities, hospitals. We discussed those before. The thing is, many people don't know the depth of these connections. obviously, those who are partaking in the utility of this ecosystem need to know more about this. So how can you ensure that you're going to deliver more information about these partnerships that evolve, that are so fundamental to your growth?
I mean, we've been continually keeping up, keeping everyone up to date with all the news that comes out on these government relationships that we had. And, frankly speaking, I mean, still now, I think one big barrier to information was the language difference. And we're trying to break some of that by uh, working closely with other type of partners. So you saw probably the news around, we now have our own news site called The Iconist, and The Iconist has dedicated reporters that's going around talking to different DApp companies, different departments within the our Korean entity. They're talking to me, interviewing me, trying to find out, okay, what are some of the things that we need to do better to connect the community with with our project. I think they kind of philosophically, if you think about it, what we're trying to build is a new type of, a republic. That's how we call it. It's the Icon Republic. On one sense, you see a lot of good activities on the enterprise side, on the Icon Foundation side, and not a lot of those information, although we want to, gets out to the public. And then now you see on the other side, you have people like you. We have our community. The public generally wants to know more about what the foundation is working on, what these enterprises is working on. So, of course, they're curious where their, public money is going into. And what we now, the missing link so far has been sort of the media piece that has been there to keep everyone honest and very transparent. And now we have several organizations such as the Iconist that is going out there and finding, asking the right type of questions to the right people and providing that type of insider news that was much needed. So, that's sort of the responsibility of the media companies to work with the public to find the right questions and find the right answers to those questions. So now you're starting to see a lot of those activities. And, I've heard a lot of people come up to me and say, about a month ago, I was a little bit worried that there weren't much news about Icon and Icon activities.
Right.
1 month now, people are telling me, the same person comes back to me and says, now I can't keep up with all the news that's happening in Icon. So I think we've made some significant strides in that department. And I mean, frankly, it's been being, you can't just do that overnight, but it's been planned out for several months now to get to this point.
Right, and thank you for explaining that. Now, I mean, if we could talk a little bit more with regard to the government connections that you mentioned, what's the sentiment like in Korea with regard to blockchain itself? Just so that we're clear, because that's the core, of your whole ecosystem, that region.
So one good thing is, so the Iconist will be doing about, I believe, one or two, I think they're going to do a weekly update on the Korean blockchain market. So the questions that you've been kind of asking, we hope to, I think the news source will be able to cover more of that through these, through this articles that's being written. With that said, I mean, there's a lot of positive activities in South Korea, and things are getting better and better. For example, I think if you go on our Twitter right now, you'll see the governor of a Jeju province, Jeju Island, actually visited the Icon offices, and we held a meeting there. So there are a few cities and provinces in Korea that's been very actively looking into attracting blockchain talent and blockchain projects. Of course, City of Seoul is in there. Busan is in there, Jeju is in there, and a couple more that are in there. And they're trying to develop blockchain hubs in those cities. So, I mean, it's very, very interesting, and things are still very early, but obviously we're getting a lot of interest in being able to help develop some of these blockchain hubs. There are a few concerns in my opinion. One is, yes, it's exciting. It's exciting that there are ideas that these governments want to set up hubs, but the question is always how do you actually execute on creating a vibrant hub or vibrant ecosystem around that province or zone or country or city.
Right.
So, it's actually the details that matter. And, until we see those details, it's hard for us to dedicate any of our resources to these government projects. But, so far the early indications have been extremely positive, and it looks like we will be able to work with, some of these guys or some of these government officials to put the proper plan into place so that we could create a very vibrant ecosystem in those cities.
Sure. And with regard to use cases you mentioned, I wanted to talk to you about that because so many startups in this industry fail very quickly, often within months rather than years. Now, what would you say to that with regard to even dApps themselves or even the platforms that we see emerge, given that there is so much competition, there's such a push right now to be first in some respects? Are you concerned at all about the imperative of use case and the lack thereof at the moment as we see this transitioning of decentralized business?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I am very concerned, but at the same time, it is expected that you see majority of the companies or majority of these protocols or startups. We're all startups basically, but we expect majority of the industry, projects that you see today, they are going to fail. I think that's just the nature of the business. I believe Icon, we're in a phenomenal position for the long term, and we don't have really, honestly, much to worry about. Only thing that we worry about is finding the right people to help us grow and continue what we do. So, I think we have different types of concerns.
And let's talk about that, Min, with regard to finding the right people. How is your team looking right now with regard to size, even in terms of expertise that's spread across, skill sets? How is everything going?
So everything's going extremely good. I mean, in the team in Korea, we have about 100 people now. So it's growing exceptionally fast. And on top of that, you're looking at different external partners that we're working very closely with. So companies like Dblock or Dnexo are companies that we are very close to, but they're not part of our core team, but they're part of our network. So this is what we want to do. We want to continue growing our network by working closely with other partners, into the future. In the US, we have the ICX station team. So we have a couple of people here. I mean, we have a few people that is helping the Icon Foundation, helping me out to run the Icon Foundation. So in total, we have 6 people. But we have a few offer letters out, and we're trying to build a US engineering team as well. So, but we take these type of decisions and very, very carefully, and we want to make sure that we find the right people here in the US, and make sure that we have a good culture and kind of built at its core so that we could scale when we need to.
I see. Now, I mean, as one of the founders, are you based in Silicon Valley for a long period of time? Is that the plan as you build out some of the connections and forge a strong base there as well?
Yes. So about 2015, I moved to Korea to help start not only the Icon project, but a fintech company. So I've been in Korea for a couple of years, but now I'm back in Silicon Valley. You know, Silicon Valley is where I've been pretty much all my life. I studied here. I've started several companies here. I have the biggest network of friends here. So, I think to improve our chances of succeeding, I mean, this is the place to be for right now for me and my team. So, and we are already doing great things that other projects probably can't do because we have such a strong network in Silicon Valley.
I see. Now, you mentioned about the long term. You say that really this is a project for that's very longitudinal by design. What do you mean by that? Like how long term do you mean in terms of what people can expect to as you evolve? And can you tell us about some of the key points in your roadmap that you think are going to be pivotal in the next year?
Sure. So when I say long term, I mean we will start to do experiments with interoperability probably next year, but to see like a fully functional, well-run use case with different blockchains interconnected, I'll be surprised if we could see it within 3 years. So
Mhm.
I think we will see something that's very, very more stable and functional, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. So when I talk about long term, especially in the tech industry, it's usually like 3 to 5 years.
Right. So, as I said to you before, we've heard the conversation and the banter about 100x and the 100x club.
Mhm.
Is that something that you support, or are you really speaking a different language entirely with regards to growth?
No, so like we're not talking about numbers when the prices of ICX. I
But
mean,
respectfully, a lot of people were in 2017, and your name came up a lot as icon. So
yeah.
what's changed, and what's your position with regard to that?
So our position has always been the same. We work on the technology, we build a network, and we go out there and we win deals. I mean, it's not about going out there and trying to talk to PR, talk to the press about what we are going to do, like what we want to build in the next 3 to 5 years. We're more about let's do this today, let's build this today, let's execute, let's go out there and convince these large enterprises to join us. We convince, you know, some of the best guys, best engineers to join the project for the long term. So we're executing on a day-to-day basis, and we're not talking about something that we want to accomplish in the future. We want to be accomplishing these type of things today. So,
Mm.
we're planning things out, and we're making strides like every single day.
And speaking of that, can you talk us through some of those key points of reference with regard to the next year of your roadmap that you think are really going to uh, allow Icon to be that, global project?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have on the technology side of things, I mean, right now we've built what we call kind of the core blockchain engine 1.0, where we have a team that is completely redoing our core blockchain engine because we're upgrading it to what you would call a version 2 model. So right now we wanted to build something very quickly to show it, to bring in enterprises to play with it, and get a lot of interesting use cases and tests going. So you see a lot of people talking about high performance blockchains. We already do have a lot of plans to be the architecture and everything, the blueprint of the highly scalable blockchain already in place. So, high performance blockchain is something that we wanted to do, but we just did not feel a necessity in the near term because I've done it multiple times before where we built a product that nobody uses. Like, what's the point of that?
Mm.
We are currently, what we want to do is build products that people use, get feedback, iterate, and continue providing value to our partners. we could always change the technology. We could always put in a V1 engine, V2 engine, V3 engine, keep upgrading our technology. But it's the actual users and the customers, the partners that we work with that actually makes our blockchain network very stable.
Sure. And obviously the narrative itself, as you evolve, you're going to be onboarding a much greater team. Technologically, you're going to evolve. With regard to the alliance that we heard about before, that narrative itself was interesting. That tripartite group of Aon, yourselves, and Wenchain. Can you talk us through that? Was it a narrative? Was it something that, you know, at the time was relevant and no longer is? Or what's the update?
So that's a very good question. The Interoperability Alliance is something that Henry is spearheading, and I know that he's met with the team a few weeks ago to carry out some initial agenda and planning, but I haven't gotten an update since then, so I can't really, honestly, can't tell you much.
Sure.
Um, but in one sense, I think it's that's sort of the beauty of how things are growing here. We're at a point where I am, you know, a lot of you guys kind of perceive me as the face of Icon, but you know, in the next year, you'll see many faces of Icon. Henry is going to be one of the leaders that's going to be driving a lot of the projects here. We'll have multiple engineers who's going to be speaking our protocol, our technology in different conferences, and you'll notice these guys just like how you noticed me today. So, you know, I think we're making a lot of changes. I myself can't handle everything that's going on within the Icon project anymore because we've grown way too big and way too strong so that, you know, I need to focus on just, you know, few things that I could handle. I just can't do everything.
Sure, I appreciate that. So essentially, leadership is decentralizing. We're seeing that with many of the leading blockchain projects right now, simply because of the scope and the requisites of that kind of leadership. Now, we're going to see more, as you mentioned, from Henry, from, I would imagine, also D-Block with that partnership and several other parties. But I mean, given that you've informed us about these updates, is there anything you'd like to say as a final statement with regard to the fundamentals, the things that are happening right now that are important and pertinent to Icon?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are doing everything we can to push things forward, and we are delivering all the pieces that is necessary to grow our network. So on the business front, we're executing better than ever, where we are getting more attention and we're actually closing more deals with parties that we want to. So it's been great on the business side. On the technology side as well, I mean, as you see now, you're starting to see our GitHub, our developers portal is starting to bring in new developers, and you see a community growing. So, you know, I think we just had our 1 year anniversary or first birthday for the Icon project. So, you know, within 1 year, we've accomplished so much. I think that's something that people should kind of measure us on, not look at everything in our white paper and expect that everything in our white paper to be done within a year. Because, you know, I think I think some of that part could be more better communicated, where I think some people expected everything in our white paper to be done like in a few months. I mean, it's just not possible. So I think everyone should look at our white paper as something that we want to accomplish in the next several years. And we are starting to get there, and we're doing things exceptionally well. So, you know, I think just watch us. We'll keep you up to date, and just follow us on our social media channels and all that.
Well, thank you very much on behalf of all the community. We really do appreciate your time. We know how busy you are as you're building out what is to become a global network, as you mentioned. It's exciting to hear about the updates. It's great to hear that you are moving ahead technologically. You are in the Silicon Valley right now. That is proof in the pudding that you are certainly building out some of these core regions of the globe, particularly those that are focused on quality technology itself. Thank you again, Min, for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you soon with regard to future updates about the Icon Foundation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very welcome.